For the last example here for sections 6.1 and 6.2, we have this information here. Data released by the Department of Education regarding the rate percentage of ninth grade students that don't graduate show that out of 50 states, 12 states had an increase in the dropout rate during the past 2 years. 15 states had a dropout rate of at least 30% during the past 2 years. 21 states had an increase in the dropout rate and or a dropout rate of at least 30% in the past 2 years. And you're asked two questions here. How many states had both a dropout rate of at least 30% and an increase in the dropout rate over the 2-year period? So it's an and. And B, how many states had a dropout rate that was less than 30% but that had increased over the 2-year period? For this here, I mean, it's going to be a good idea for me to come up with a Venn diagram and define what these are. So I'm going to call those that had an increase in the dropout rate set I, those that had at least 30%, I'm going to call it T for 30, yeah. And those that had one or the other is going to be the union of those two. So I'm not going to define it as a new set, it's actually the combination of these two. Now one of the things here is I'm having some issues with is, I know how many fall inside I, how many fall inside T, and I know there's a combination of 21 in total, but I really don't know how many fall in both yet. That's kind of hard to do with the Venn diagram alone. So I'm going to use the formula to come up with what the intersection should be, because I don't even know if these things intersect each other. I'm going to probably suggest that they do, because 12 and 15 total 27, and there's only 21 that say that they have one or that are in one or the other or both of these categories. So, and I could probably use that information to figure it out, but I'm just going to kind of put this in more perspective. I'm going to use the formula, and I get that the intersection is 6. So when I start making my Venn diagram now, I know that the intersection is 6. Since there has to be 12 total in group I, there should be 6 that are, inside of I but not also inside of T, and likewise there should be 9 that are inside of T but aren't also inside of I. And since this makes up a grand total of 21 of the states, the other 29 states fall outside of those two circles as part of my, universal. So when we look for how many states had both a dropout rate of at least 30% and an increase in the dropout rate over the 2-year period, well, that's what, the intersection of I and T represents. So there were 6 states that had both a dropout rate of at least 30% and an increase in the dropout rate. Now in part B, we're looking for how many states had a dropout rate that was less than 30% but had increased over the 2-year period. So we're looking for essentially this number that, had the increase I and the complement of T, so not T. So basically we're looking for anything that falls inside of I but doesn't fall inside of T. And that would be this region right here. And so based off of that, there are 6 states that had a dropout rate less than 30% but had an increase in the dropout rate during that 2-year period.